We've got some inside information on how Plarium can operate or is operating. We're going to find out some of the things you guys want to know right here, right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Blazing here, and I am so happy to have you guys here along with my guest for today, which is Bick. Now, Bick, you've been new to the community. You've been about a year now, if I'm not mistaken, and you recently started streaming YouTube. So you reached out to me and said, hey, listen, I think there's a conversation that needs to be had here, and you could provide a little more insight on why Plarium does some of the things they do. So before we get into that topic, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm Bick. I recently got into Raid Shadow Legends. I've been trying to stream as much as possible, but I've been sick quite a lot, so recently not as active. For my day job, I am a senior quality assurance engineer, and some of the things that I've been seeing and hearing also in regards with the issues that certain patches have been having with a lot of bugs occurring and things breaking, they kind of stuck home with me because this is something I do for a daily job. So hopefully I can provide some insight as to why this might be happening and answer some questions. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it definitely does feel like the game over the last couple of months has been really just buggy. Just everything that could go wrong, right? Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Now, it definitely seems that Plarium doesn't pay as much attention to doing anything with the bug fixes and is more concerned about just pushing content out. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. So basically, when you're working in IT software or game design, there is a workflow that the majority of companies have, where you are working in something called a sprint. And a sprint is basically nothing more than a period that is usually around 2 weeks, where you are working on some tickets, and tickets are basically just chopped up pieces of work that need to be done to help create a new champion or a new patch or whatever. And these sprints, they usually have like a high priority because they want to continuously pump out new content for the players, because that's how they make their money according to their metrics system that keeps track of everything. So during the moments where they have like a lot of deadlines, because every month we have new fusion, they are announcing stuff, and they are also continuously dropping content after content without a lot of time in between. So the pressure on their sprints must be incredibly high. And this also means that there's very little room for actual testing.
So let me ask a question on that, though. Wouldn't they, as a quality assurance person, or I don't know how that engineer, there we go, wouldn't part of that also mean that you would have to have a testing team to kind of go through it? Or is it just, is it really not needed? Is it just kind of like, we'll worry about it whenever the issue arises?
So the second approach, where we will worry about it when the issue arises, is actually very common, because quality assurance is looked at something that doesn't add value to the product, and you want to be adding value to the product because making money is your first and foremost goal, correct? And
Yeah.
testing something, if it's working or not, is not creating additional content. It is not adding content to the product. Quality assurance is a cost reduction measure, because the earlier you find a problem in development, the cheaper it is to fix. However, this means that for companies that are trying to maximize their profit, that are cutting edges, or that are at a quote-unquote young stage in their software development lifecycle, these companies will usually have like someone like an intern do the testing, but basically testing isn't their emphasis. They don't really care too much about it. So yes,
Okay.
it
All
is
right.
it is not their priority.
So when we say that they may only have like one person that's doing the testing, it could be very well true, right? Okay.
Yes.
That explains a lot because like I said, it just feels like every game mode that comes out, everything that comes out, patch after patch after patch, just seems like it's not being tested. So it makes a lot more sense now that that's the key phrase, right? Or that's the key thing, right? They worry more about pumping the content out, making the money, and then we'll fix things as they are. So seems to be the good seems to be the motto that Plarium has.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
gonna add two things to that, if that's okay with you.
yeah, go ahead.
The first thing is this is something I see with a lot of companies. A lot of companies they grow too big for their own size, and during their enormous growth period, they did not scale properly with their development team. So they also don't have a proper quality assurance team. By the time they realize this, you will have to hire people that have to build up entire processes, get used to the entire code base, which can take easily a year, depending on like how large it is and the quality of the people you're hiring. And another thing is, this is extremely common. This is happening with a lot of hundred millions of dollar companies or billion-dollar companies, where basically you have one person doing the testing and nobody really bats an eye. They don't really care because uh, it's just an afterthought. It is so much of an afterthought, and this is the second point, that a lot of companies they don't even add the testing into their working cycles, into their sprint cycles. So they will release their patches onto production, onto live, so for their actual users or players in our case to experience and use, while the person who's testing it still hasn't finished their work.
Okay. All
So
right. That makes so much more sense.
it,
It really does. It really does. Okay. Let me ask. Feedback, right? Content creators put feedback, players put feedback. It just seems like it falls on deaf ears. What kind of insight would you have on that?
yeah. So player feedback is or user feedback, let's put it like this. User feedback is very important for any company. And user feedback is stored and it is processed. You can trust them on that. The thing is, because you are working in sprint cycles and you have so much pressure on you because you need to release the new content on a monthly basis, you are not able to prioritize feedback you get because some of the feedback uh, you are constantly in a state where you need to add to the product because this is the main goal. This has the highest priority. Um, so user feedback is usually an afterthought. It's not that they don't want to work on it. They do want to work on it usually. It's just that they don't have the time. They don't have the resources. They don't have the manpower because everything needs to happen as efficient as possible to maximize profit because you are in a corporate setting. So this means that on an average day, um, you are working on your sprint. And if you're lucky, you will have some time over at the end of a 2 week period where you can work on so-called backlog tickets, tickets that are not part of the sprint, tasks that are not part of the sprint. However, these will usually also have a priority, and some of these will be bugs that got added in the last patch. So the majority of the time, you are working on either adding new stuff for the next sprint, the next release, the next month, the next fusion, or you are fixing stuff that you broke during the last patch. So the moments where you can actually work and implement player feedback are very slim.
Okay. So I guess It's not like there's two separate teams, one that would be kind of working on what's actually going on and one on taking player feedback and trying to develop that into the game or whatever.
Yeah. So
Um,
some companies, they will have multiple teams, where basically a team is responsible for a certain domain. So I don't know if this is the case at Plarium, but this is something I can imagine. But basically, imagine a world where you have 20 developers working at Plarium, just to pick a random number. And these developers, they are divided into separate teams of 5. And each of these teams has their own specialization. One is responsible for payments, one is responsible for Hydra Chimera, and one team is responsible for Event Dungeon, and one team is responsible for um, developing and creating new champions. So this could definitely be the case at Plarium, and there are definitely multiple teams at bigger corporations that, or companies or game studios that work on different things. And this might also be the case at Plarium. However, these teams, they usually don't have a lot of contact with each other because they are working in their separate domains that are separate from each other.
okay, so it's like everybody go to your room, stay there, and you'll come out whenever we tell you, and we'll talk to you whenever we tell you. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Um,
just to give an example, your Chimera balancing has nothing to do with the team that is working on making sure that your PayPal and your credit card payments are functional within the game. These would be two separate domains that are maintained by either different people or different teams, depending on the size of the development team at Plarium.
well, it seems like my PayPal and my credit card never seem to fail. It's just my Chimera or my Hydra, right?
Yeah, but they also don't have to add as much on a monthly basis to one of those domains now, do they?
That's true. That's true. Let me ask. So it feels like Plarium puts more emphasis on the player, just like you said, pumping out the more content, but not actually, going back and working on some of that other stuff. It's just like push, 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 take, 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 take. Why is that?
Yeah. So coming back to the workflow, you want to maximize your profit as a company. And and you also want to maintain and grow your player base. So one of the methods to do this is by adding continuous content to your product, and in this case, the product is a game. So when we are creating new content, and this can be a new area or this can be a new champion, this is exciting. This is something people can think about, and this is probably also enforced by whatever metrics uh, they have that they use to keep track of user behavior. User behavior being how many days have you logged in, how many days have you not logged in, during which events did you spend, how much do you spend on a monthly basis. And these are things we know they have in the game. They keep track of your login days because they give you daily rewards. They keep track of how many days were you not online because there is a revival pass with alpha in it. They keep track of how much you spend, and when you meet a certain threshold, they scale up your packages. They become more expensive. They will contain more resources or rewards in them, depending on how you want to phrase that. So we do know for a fact that they keep track of a lot of things. They keep track of your shark pools for mercy, etc. Their metrics probably tell them that to maximize their profit, they need to be continuously releasing new content that makes us want to spend on the game. It keeps us fresh, it keeps us excited, and this drives our spending behavior. Some people call it flavor of the month or fear of missing out. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's just that it is kind of in human nature to chase the next shiny thing because you want it. So they are very much incentivized to keep adding to their product instead of going back and fixing older problems. because fixing all their problems doesn't boost their sales. It doesn't make us spend more. Because if they go like, hey, we buffed your champion that's been not too good for years now, people are going to be like, oh, that's nice for them. Are you going to use it? Maybe. You're probably going to wait for somebody to actually build him, test him out, and see if it's worth using or not. And by the odd chance that it's worth using, you're probably going to build him. However, their return on investment for the work they did isn't going to be as high as adding new content. So that's what drives this behavior.
You know, you mentioned to me that the latest game mode we got released, Chimera, was actually more of an issue than anything else, and it wasn't really what it should be. So why don't you give us a little more on that?
Chimera is an interesting boss. Because first of all, this boss was, I believe, purely designed with the swapping of affinities from a monetary perspective.
Okay.
When we are talking about driving people to spend money, I think Chimera is the perfect design boss. When we're talking about good game design, I think Chimera is a terrible design boss. Chimera is presented. They have a very good marketing team, let's be honest. Some of the releases with like the Alice in Wonderland videos and stuff have been amazing. And their marketing team is very good. We also see this in all the ads for Raid Shadow Legends, and Chimera is a very well marketed cash-in cow. They market it as, look, you can bring all your champions and try to do all these trials. However, in reality, doing all these trials and while dealing with affinity, because you are going to be weak hitting. So even if you have the champions that on paper can deal with these trials, even if you have a nuker that can deal enough damage, the majority of the nukers are magic affinity. So if you get a force form, then you're going to be weak hitting, and you're not going to be hitting the numbers, you're going to be weak hitting and not hitting your trials. And this is very problematic because this is frustrating, and frustration is not fun. So people are going to be inclined now and in the future, when there's going to be a certain chase champion for Chimera, and at the moment I believe that champion is Senna, they're going to be spending to get that champion. And this is something you exactly want, because you want to be pushing your spending player base just a little bit further, just stretch it a little bit every time again and again. And there's two things or three things here. We have, first of all, we are introducing chase champions, which is very common for gacha games. And these chase champions are also meta champions. And this is insanely good from a game design perspective, especially if you're monetizing it. The second thing is one of the things a lot of content creators mentioned, and it was in the patch notes, but nobody has been talking about, which I feel is kind of disappointing, is that Plarium mentioned in their patch notes when they introduced relics that they would be introducing multiple ways of getting different types of relics besides clan bosses. So we got Chimera, we're probably going to get Demon Lord, we're probably going to get Hydra relics, but at the moment, at that point in time, people were worried that we would get relics that you would have to pay money for to obtain in the shop.
Right, yeah, that was one of my biggest worries.
Yeah, and they kind of did do this, but this is something we can talk about in a moment. The other thing with Chimera is, so the third point with Chimera, in my opinion, why it's such a huge milking cow for them is that you have the competitive players that want to hit the highest numbers, and these people, they were active in Hydra, and now they're going to be also active in. And these people are going to splurge insane amounts of money to get that optimal team going. You also have your consistent, not splurge or whaley spenders that are more consistent spenders. They work, they operate on a budget, and this budget is probably not that high, but it's consistent. And these are the people that will get you through the month. So these types of spenders, they are the ones that will cover all your costs. They will pay the salaries of your employees, and the whales, they are the ones that like spend very spiky, spend a lot during these mega summon events. And these people, these customers, are the people that you are making a profit of. For these people that you're profiting off, the spendings are going to be through the roof. For the people that are already on their budgets, they are still going to be covering your cost. So those people will always be there for you. So
So,
yeah,
so they have a baseline of normal spenders, and
yes,
then what they do is the reason they throw some of these other enticing events out is to get those whales to just kind of get those spikes in every so often.
yes,
Okay. So when we
yeah.
see those really good 15x's or 25x's, whatever, for Chimera boss champions, it's because they want that. Right. Okay.
Let me put it like this. The summoning portal hasn't really shown its normal face that often in the recent months. If their metrics told them, hey, you need to chill, it would have been showing its face a lot more often. But we've been getting chase event after chase event with champions like Teox. Now with Senna, we have seen a lot of civvies, and it has been an absolute wild ride. And you can bet your ass that some of these people are just dumping money by thousands during each of
I
these events.
I can attest to that. I can attest to that because it's one of those things. You know, when we were discussing earlier, you said there's different demographics that will spend based on age, female, male, and stuff like that. And I feel like you were pretty
Yeah.
much on point with what we were talking about there. And it's like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely fit that. Um,
Just Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to give a small insight to the people at home. Basically, any company that has an active user base, and again in this case it's a player base, they will basically create user stories. They will identify their demographic, their users, and they will divide you into certain boxes. And these boxes can range from age, they can be based on gender, they can be based on how much you spend. However, they are very good at profiling what type of player you are, and they will identify which of these user types um, is important for which part of their income, and they will actively target parts of the game to appease some of these players. This is something that a lot of companies do, and it makes sense to do.
Okay. Yeah, we were speaking. You were just saying about the portal. The portal's not glowing today, so I think we're okay.
We're good.
Maybe
But
it's sick or something.
you're also not gonna. It's gonna be glowing tomorrow. But
That's true.
today, you know what started today?
What's that? The Alice chase.
The Alice Chase, the first tournament.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to not have the portal glowing today.
True. Okay. So each day is definitely uh, is thought out and well planned on what they want to sell from the shop. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanna kind of discuss before I let you go?
Um, I feel like there was something we mentioned, but I also feel like we talked a lot, and maybe you can invite me next time if you found this interesting, depending on how the video did. But yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks a lot for having me. Oh, there's something I do want to mention actually. So I am planning on starting my own YouTube show,
Okay.
and it's still a secret. But I was wondering if you would be willing to be the first guest on that show when it happens.
Of course.
You don't have to
Anytime.
answer me. Okay.
Anytime.
So, okay. Other than that, yeah, this is my first time showing my face to the Raid Shadow Legends community. So, hey guys, I'm Vic. I want to give a shout out to my boy, my man, Airfern too. He
Whoa, whoa,
has
whoa,
helped me a
whoa.
lot.
He wants us
Oh,
to nerf. Come on, we
yeah,
gotta get nerf Newt. No, well, hold up, hold up.
yeah, yeah. We can. I don't agree with a lot of his statements, and I also argue a lot with him in chat. And I also have a very good and fine clip where after I think it was like 8 hours of arguing with him and his chat, after like 8 hours of building and doing Hydra and stuff, at the end he was like, I don't want to say it, but Big was right. And I have it clipped, and
Oh,
it's my most precious clip ever. So, yeah.
I think I might have to get that from you and put it on the podcast next time he starts saying something. I'm just gonna play that. And I love Airfern. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. Great
Yeah.
perspective. I know he calls for the nerf on Gina, but I know he doesn't really mean it. I know that
No.
is the bigger picture of the Armand and stuff, but uh,
Yeah. This is something we talked about off screen, but yeah, maybe for next time.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I appreciate this because it definitely, like I said, we get no clarification from Plarium on what they're thinking, what they're doing, what that transparency is not there. And to have somebody that kind of works in that space and knows what's going on and is able to voice something out there really helps out a lot. So it definitely, now we definitely can confirm that, there might be a tester, but there's only one tester. It's not, and that's why things are happening. So, Bick, I want to say thank you very much, man, for coming on. Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. Anytime you want me on the show, I will be right there. Guys, make sure to go follow Bick over on YouTube and Twitch. The links will be in the pinned comment below. Show him some love, give him a follow. It doesn't cost anything. It's the right support that he needs, and he's doing the right thing here. He's trying to give us more information and on what is actually going on. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button up. Make sure to come by on Sundays, 2 p.m. EST for the Knights of Teleria podcast, where we talk everything Raid Shadow Legends, and hopefully we will get Vic on here soon and get his views on what's going on. As always, guys, much love, much appreciation. Be safe, be well, be good to each other. We'll catch you guys next.